Hey everyone, it's Follow Myth, showcasing another one of my builds on my survival character with no mods or Creation Club add-ons. I found County Crossing to be one of the easiest settlements to build on when it comes to terrain and open space. Considering there's only one ghoul-infested area to the west, it's not that problematic. The spawn points are less than ideal though. A couple of them are basically inside the buildable bounds, and I did have the unexpected ones popping out from time to time. Building massive scrappy towns like these are absolutely satisfying, especially when it fits the whole post-apocalyptic scenery, which is what Fallout 4 is all about. Nothing needs to be neat or set in a uniform fashion, which makes these kinds of builds easy to pull off in my opinion. Like the wall encasing the settlement made out of random wall pieces and junk fences. I made the main entrance by the pre-existing house foundation, which I turned into a 2-story scrappy house. I set up some defensive outposts overlooking the water purifiers and the National Guard training yard. I maximized sleeping space by setting up some bunk beds here, and kept item placement to a minimum and only on the furniture with glitched in rugs. If you aren't that familiar with vanilla builds, manual placement is very sketchy and prone to fall apart whenever you go in and out of loading zones, or you throw a grenade by accident or something. Putting in rugs in your furniture prevents items from falling off. It's not guaranteed to work every time, but it does lessen the chances of it happening. I also utilized some non-workshop items like this shopping cart and pylons. These are items not found in the workshop mode that you can pick up around the Commonwealth and drag to your settlements to decorate and add some uniqueness. The vanilla workshop mode does lack these kinds of decorative items, so you do have to get creative like this. There are some pre-existing assets here that I had to work around, like this fireplace that traveling merchants like to sit around. In retrospect, I should have set up this house a bit further out to avoid merchants and Brahmin from glitching into the walls trying to sit around the fireplace. But it's one of those things that you notice only after you've spent a lot of time on it, and it's a pain to just scrap and start over again. There is another fireplace that I tried covering up with this house here. The fire was still showing through the wooden floors, so I had to cover it with a bed and some containers under it. I set up some furniture into a nicely L-shaped couch, which I thought was a nice touch. Just outside of this house is a pre-existing truck that I didn't bother to scrap since I thought it blended well with the scrappy look. Beside it is the pre-existing unscrappable shack that came with this settlement that I ended up turning into an outhouse. Cloth and leather materials have this toilet paper look to them that are perfect for places like this. I added a large diner and bar area just beside it. A lot of settlers like to stand around here, so I had to keep manual item placement to a minimum. On the second floor, I set up some more bunk beds with furniture pieces. I added additional sitting areas on the third floor, but sadly settlers aren't able to get up here. The other side has some additional shops, like this shack with the weapons displays. The bar on the upper floor doesn't get much foot traffic, which is unfortunate, but it does mean I get to manually place more items since there's less settlers to bump into them. The center part with the copper fountain and the scrappy pathways is one of my favorite areas in this settlement. I have another trading hub area just around the corner with a large floor foundation as the roof. Across from it, I added a small clinic with some beds and minor item placement since foot traffic is pretty light here too. Above it, I made a small living space out of a card box. I glitched in a sleeping bag into this couch to turn it into a makeshift bed. The remaining surrounding areas are more scrappy shacks and farm space. At this point I had already maxed out the size limit a few times, and I was being cautious about not maxing it out again. Otherwise I'll be having some serious frame drops. And as you can probably tell, this settlement did take a few weeks to complete, especially due to the amount of time spent on manually placing items and adding dozens of rocks to almost all the furniture around it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tour, and let me know what you think in the comments. As always, I appreciate your support, so see you guys on the next one.